Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest, most persistent mysteries you've probably seen all over the modern internet. I mean, you see these claims literally everywhere, right? But they so rarely get a proper logical breakdown. So we're going to look deep into the actual math behind financial independence to finally solve this puzzle. Is a 5-year timeline to total freedom actually realistic, or is it just smoke and mirrors? You've probably heard people casually boast on social media about becoming financially free in just 5 years. Honestly, they make it sound as easy as ordering takeout on a Tuesday night. But if you're anything like me, you don't just take internet hype at face value. We really need to ask the tough question here. Is achieving financial freedom in such a crazy short window of time actually possible, or is it entirely a myth? See, we're dealing with a massive divide here. On one side, you have this unicorn fantasy. That wild internet promise where everyone supposedly retires at 25 with zero effort, just working 2 hours a week from a beach somewhere. But on the other side, we've got the abacus reality, the cold, hard, compounding actual math. So to find out if this is just another internet fantasy, I actually sat down and ran the exact numbers to see the reality behind these bold claims. We're going to let the math do the talking today.
Defining the finish line. What exactly is financial freedom? Simply put, financial freedom isn't actually about being insanely rich. It's achieved when your assets generate enough passive income to completely cover your living expenses. That's it. That's the true finish line. Just imagine waking up and knowing that the dividends from your stock portfolio, or maybe the rent from a real estate investment, are automatically paying for your groceries, your electricity bill, your mortgage, the whole shebang. You literally don't have to clock in anywhere to keep the lights on. If your investments pay your everyday bills, you are free.
But to make this attainable, we really need to strip away the fantasies. I'm not talking about becoming a billionaire here. I'm not talking about buying a mega yacht or flying private to some secluded island. If those are your goals, well, the math changes drastically, and honestly, 5 years is just out of the question for almost anyone. We are focusing purely on everyday freedom, the ability to buy back your time, cover your basic needs comfortably, and completely walk away from mandatory work.
The everyday math breakdown. Let's run the numbers.
Let's imagine an everyday scenario just to make this super concrete. Think of someone bringing home an income of $1,500 a month. But as we all know, life costs money. Their living expenses add up to $1,200. And where does that go? Well, it goes to rent, it goes to groceries, filling up the gas tank, keeping the internet on, and maybe the occasional movie or dinner out. This isn't a life of luxury. This is just keeping the wheels turning. So out of that $1,500, $1,200 is already spoken for before the month even begins. That leaves them with a gap of just $300 left over each month to invest. Now, I want you to really think about the psychological weight of this specific amount. This $300, that's their entire wealth-building engine. It is literally the only tool they have to build their ultimate freedom. It's a very small seed, and they're basically hoping to use it to grow a massive, self-sustaining forest in just 5 short years.
The shocking reality check. 60 months later.
So let's set up the collision course here. The goal is to generate a target monthly yield of $1,200 in passive income. Because remember, that's exactly what's needed to cover their living expenses and actually be free. The timeline is exactly 60 months, which is 5 years. And the shovel they're using to dig this well is that monthly investment of just $300. When we put these variables together, the tension becomes incredibly obvious. The shocking reality is that the math just doesn't add up. And I'm going to break down exactly why. If you invest $300 a month for 60 months, you're putting in exactly $18,000 of your own money. Even if we assume a very generous, incredibly lucky stock market run, maybe, just maybe, that $18,000 grows to $22,000 or even $25,000. But here is the absolute kicker. To safely generate $1,200 a month, which is $14,400 a year without running out of money, you typically need to follow the widely accepted 4% withdrawal rule. That means you need a total portfolio of around $360,000. So you have $25,000. You need $360,000. It's not even close, is it? Without changing the core variables, achieving this in 5 years is like trying to push a massive boulder up a steep hill completely by yourself. It's just impossible. The hard truth is that for most people, the basic income to expense ratio simply doesn't allow for a 5-year timeline. But there's an exception. It absolutely is possible, but only if you stop pushing the boulder with your bare hands and instead build a massive lever.
Accelerating your timeline, let's look at the 3 levers.
So it absolutely can be possible for someone who's willing to take extreme measures to widen that gap between what they earn and what they spend. To accelerate that timeline down to just 5 years, you've got to pull 3 massive levers all at the same time. Step 1, you have to dramatically increase your income. This means weekend side hustles, going after demanding promotions, or pivoting to high-paying skills. Step 2, you must strictly control your spending. When that new money comes in, you absolutely cannot succumb to lifestyle creep. You stay in the cheap apartment. You drive the old car. And step 3, you must invest incredibly aggressively. We aren't talking about saving 10 or 20% of your income here. People who hit financial freedom in 5 years are often investing 50, 60, or even 70% of every single dollar they make. It's intense.
But you know, the real lesson from this explainer isn't just about whether a 5-year timeline is possible or not. The true takeaway is understanding how the math actually works behind the scenes. Because here is the profound truth. Once you sit down and calculate your exact number, financial freedom completely stops being this vague dream. It stops being a wish you make when you buy a lottery ticket, and it becomes a concrete, achievable target. You move entirely from wishing to actually planning.
So, now that you know exactly how these numbers work and the strict levers required to accelerate the whole process, I want to leave you with this final thought. Take a moment. What is your specific target monthly passive income? Look at your own expenses, run the math for yourself, and figure out how you're going to start building a concrete plan to get there. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.